Hi everyone. Today we have a very special guest. We have Rama Devi Lanka from Telangana joining us. She is the Director of Emerging Technologies in the state of Telangana. And as we all know, the state of Telangana has been doing some amazing job in terms of AI, blockchain, and all other emerging technology. In fact, Telangana celebrated the year 2020 as the year of AI, and it's a question. There's no question when you say that Telangana is the leader in AI technologies in India. It's a undisputed fact, and the role people like KTR, Jayesh Ranjan sir, and Rama Devi has played in getting to that point is very critical. Welcome to India AI Conversations, ma'am. Very happy to have you here.
Thank you, Jibu. It's a pleasure to be on this platform. Yeah.
Ma'am, I want to, when I got this opportunity to talk to you, I want to know the background, right? Why, how did, something others weren't thinking at that time, to prioritize emerging technology, and especially AI, and that too, mostly for governance and the social empowerment. Many of the projects came from the Telangana, like the pension scheme. Everything has been to promote the, affecting the local citizen. What was the motivation behind this push towards AI?
Yeah. That's a very good question, Jibu. In fact, it needs vision and visionary leadership is what I would say, to even come out with something like this. So I think 5 years back, we came out with our ICT policy, wherein one of I don't think any state government might have actually even thought about it. It's Telangana would like to be a leader in emerging technologies. And believe me, 5 years back, even we did not hear about this Industry 4.0 also. In fact, only 3, 4 years back we started hearing. So that was a vision statement which said, Telangana would like to be a key leader in emerging technologies. So 3 years back, I think, almost, yeah, 3 years back, when I just joined the government back from NISG where I used to work, it was Mr. Ranjan who told me, I asked him, what should I do now, after join? He said, I want you to actually work on emerging technologies. Wow, it's something new, nobody has done anything. It's a clean slate. So I really didn't know where to start, because there is no precedence. It's a new technology. I mean, new technologies, and more so in the government. Imagine government looking at that. I was totally, lost for quite some time. So then I started thinking, now next what is it? And it's a great opportunity, I would say, that the government has given me to work on this particular thing. So I started doing, and believe me, I was the only one person, single person working on this at that point of time, with no team, with limited funds, with so many constraints, with a new technology. That's what people say sometimes. If you have constraints, they help you. In fact, coming out quickly with solutions. That's what happened. So I started doing my own research, and then we actually identified 8 technologies, 8 emerging technologies that we believe that would really impact the way government delivers services to citizens, businesses, and so on. Our first perspective was like how does the government actually leverage these technologies? Yeah. So like AI, blockchain, cloud, robotics, IoT, AR, VR, big data, and so on. 8 technologies we have identified. So initially, our thought process was to leverage these technologies for the government, either to address certain pain points, to improve service delivery, or to improve the internal governance processes. But once we started thinking about that, we understood that we really need an ecosystem to help us on that. You need to have solutions. You need to have companies that offer those services and solutions. Then we started working towards how do we develop the ecosystem in the state. So it's a kind of strategy that evolved, two-pronged strategy. One is how do you develop the ecosystem in the state for these emerging technologies to thrive, to grow, startups, and you see mostly startups coming in these areas. That's one. Second is how do we again leverage these technologies for the government. So with this twin objective, the emerging technologies wing was formed, and now we have a team. And the way that we have been working, Zibo, is we identify these technologies, then we come out with a broad framework. What should be the pillars, foundational pillars for these technologies. So it varies from 4 to 5. So we came up with specific, frameworks of policy frameworks, we call it, for drones. Initially blockchain was our first focus technology, and today I can proudly say that Telangana is one of the leading states in India in terms of blockchain. We have implemented about more than a dozen use cases. We have a thriving startup ecosystem here, and one of our recent projects we are still working on it with CDAC. we are developing a solution for facilitating, people to vote from their homes in the coming municipal elections. So that will be rolled out in a month or so. That's an interesting project. It's one of its kind, unique. And all of you might have heard about what happened in the U.S. elections, right? I mean, despite the best country in the world with advanced technologies, the elections fiasco, all of us know. So we are actually we do take real life problems and try to, so that's about blockchain and other. And once we come out with a framework, we actually institutionalize that in the form of we create institutions for example, cyber security. We came out with a policy. We established a center of excellence in cyber security. Similarly, for AI, coming to the AI, for each of that, then that particular institute will drive the framework, implement the strategy document. So coming to AI, as you already mentioned, we commemorated 2020 as the year of AI. Unfortunately, I mean, COVID was there, but still we could manage. Our partnerships, for example, we entered into partnership with Intel, which has set up what you call, Center of Applied AI in Hyderabad. It is in partnership with, IIT Hyderabad and Public Health Foundation of India. It's in healthcare, actually, healthcare and mobility, So that's one interesting partnership that we entered into. Then we entered into partnership with Vadvani AI to work on, some AI projects. So today we are implementing a project with them, which is called for pest management in agriculture, where one of the biggest problem the farmers face is how do we, tackle these pests. So these partnerships are actually, leading to certain, I would say, outcomes or deliverables that is driving the AI ecosystem in the state. I'll pause here so that because I can just go endless on AI when you.
It's very interesting to hear the journey. I mean, I remember personally when I was a journalist with the Times of India group. The blockchain craze was going everywhere. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin was, I think it started to be $10,000 back then. And I heard like Telangana is using blockchain for land registry, if I'm correct, a pilot project. And I was like, okay, you are joking, right? This is too early. It's a very emerging technology. It took some time to realize, that there are visionaries. I mean, we always had visionaries, but implementing part was done so well at such an early stage. So, and of course, what was your experience, in shifting from a different career trajectory into emerging technology, and what was the early projects you oversaw in this space?
In the emerging technology space, or emerging technologies wasn't there earlier, right? So my entire career is in technology, Jibu, so that made it easier for me to actually work in emerging technologies. So I'm basically a civil engineer. I was in the initial days of my career, I was designing water supply schemes, in the government. But when during this technology boom in the 90s, I thought, let me make a move towards IT. And in fact, fortunately, the government also gave some 5 years leave. I went to US, worked in the Silicon Valley, mostly in startups. That's what actually excited me, And that was when Google actually set up its office. I used to drive past Google to my office, It's called BeVocal. I did not realize that Google would be so famous, would become such a big, huge company. Just started operations, I can still remember that office that I saw in Mountain View. So I was there 5 years working on core, very high-end technologies like, I worked in a company called BeVocal. At that time, I worked in, projects where speech to voice recognition and so on. It's BeVocal. It's so. But due to family reasons, I had to come back to India, and again I joined back the government. So let me see, karke. But within the government, there wasn't much scope at that point of time. So I moved at similar organizations where you can use technology to help governments, like Center for Good Governance is a state organization that actually develops solutions for the state government. So there I worked for about 2 years, and I really did some amazing projects. That helped the state to monitor their flagship projects, which are statewide projects. But the big shift or the very important milestone in the government this thing is I moved to NISG, National Institute for Smart Government, which was then headed by Mr. J. Satyanarayana sir. Whoever is in tech industries, more so in e-governance, know him. He has worked as IT secretary also. He was the CEO. So it was a wonderful organization. It was kind of, I mean, that's the kind of environment that I wanted, wherein, you would be working like it should be like a private sector company where, you don't have those regulatory burdens, At the same time, you should be accountable to what you're doing. So that exactly was the environment there. So I got an opportunity to work with, uh, some important ministries within Government of India, like visa and immigration, where we proposed one solution to them. It's almost more than 10 years back, where we told them you need to have a green channel, use technology for frequent visitors, Otherwise, it's a long process for visa. I mean, people who are coming for business visits, it's like kind of so they have implemented those technologies. So visa immigration is the first project that I did after joining there, and I'm happy the reforms that we actually advocated were implemented by the government. The second is the health sector that I worked, with Ministry of Health, where at that it's almost again a decade back, I would say, we came up with a detailed project report suggesting the ministry to, implement systems and process within the health sector. While the ministry did actually agree with it, somehow, the project did not go further. And I work with the Department of Atomic Energy. So these projects that I work were actually, large projects that actually brought in sort of reforms, within that particular sector. So it was an exciting phase, and the natural course for me was to actually join back the Telangana. I mean, I'm actually government of Telangana, but somehow I've been working, on deputation, again working for the government. But I thought, let me come back to the state, and contribute. So that's when I came back 3 years, and this is my journey since then. Yeah.
I think I got the answer for why, many of the projects, right? You have many of the projects which are technically sophisticated, yet it has a human touch, helping the people. I think it comes from your own background. I think, the diverse background, your experience in the Silicon Valley, in the technology, in the early days of technology, as well as your, work with the governance part. I think that can be very reflective in many of the projects that's coming from the emerging technology division in Telangana. I mean, it's fabulous. So, can you tell me what are the projects that's currently being deployed? I mean, I know there are a lot of projects coming from your team, but what are the major AI projects?
Yeah, Jibu. In fact, we have identified, around 5 focus areas for us, within the government. They are actually agriculture, education, healthcare, smart cities. It's not smart cities, law enforcement, mobility in the AI, domain. So we started off as, all of us are aware of the recent happenings in agriculture. Even prior to that, even before Government of India started release these farm reforms, we realized, we actually, Telangana has been a drought state, for a couple of years. In the United Andhra Pradesh, Telangana regions were rain fed mostly. So we built huge irrigation structures to help the farmers, to make water available and then make power available. So the basic utilities thing has been taken care of by the government. Post that, we realized we really need to bring in some transformation, some technological interventions to help the farmers. So agriculture has been a priority sector since we actually declared this or commemorated 2020 as the year of AI. So today, Jeeva, I'm happy to share that we are working on some more than 12 use cases in agriculture, and we are collaborating, and it's a complex system, agriculture. No other sector is so complex, I feel, across the value chain, starting from planning phase, monitoring, crop monitoring, and once you get the harvest, it's called farm gate to fork, where you have logistics, and then you sell the produce and so on. So we need actually collaboration with multiple agencies, or it's a multi-stakeholder engagement is what is needed for the agri sector. So in that, keeping that in mind, we actually collaborated with World Economic Forum, and we launched a program called AI for AI. You are aware of it, artificial intelligence for agriculture innovation. And I'm really happy today, I think last week, Ms. Debjani Ghosh was also there in that, 60 representatives, from different companies came together to work on this particular project. And they, the output is amazing. We identified we would need 24 frameworks across the agri value chain, and 24 use cases we have identified, and about 12 frameworks I think the team is going to work on. So it's an amazing partnership between different stakeholders, government, research institutions, industry, civil societies. So all the stakeholders came together, and today we have a very, a deliverable that, or a milestone. We have reached a milestone where the governments can actually look at that report. It's a report that has come out with identifying what are the use cases. The governments can take that and start implementing those. That's one of the key projects that we have. And the second one is of course with NASSCOM. As I said, we come out with policy framework, right? We also have a specific AI framework policy, where we have identified around 6 pillars. So we have partnered with NASSCOM, and Mr. Snehanshu is actually heading the team, who is driving the implementation of that strategy. So under that, again, we recently announced a grand challenge, for 3 agricultural areas. One is precision agriculture, because a lot of times, environmentally also we waste a lot of natural resources like, water, a lot of, excess water we use, nutrients, pesticides, and so on, So that's precision agriculture. We are looking for innovative solutions in that area. Second important area in agriculture is, again, while farmers sometimes they get good yields, good produce, but unfortunately they're not able to sell at the right price, because they're not aware. Price discovery doesn't happen. They're not aware what kind of demand is out there. So that is another area where we are looking for innovative solutions, price discovery and market linkages for the farmer. The third area that we are looking at is credit lending. A lot of farmers, they take huge loans, at abnormal, what you call interest rates. So can we? There are a lot of startups that are coming now to actually provide very, good insurance products or lending, products to the farmers. So with NASSCOM, we are working. This is about agriculture, and there is a third project that we are working with the Agriculture Ministry also. Ministry also is very keen, at the center to actually use emerging technologies for agriculture. So that's we have released an RFP and inviting only startups for this. That's again a unique thing by the Telangana government, and I don't think no other state has done that. So there are 5 solutions again under that, using IoT sensors and other technologies for efficient use of nutrition and irrigation. How do you use optimal utilization of water and nutrients is one solution. And then what you call traceability. See, if you want to export either vegetables or fruits to other countries, they should be of very good quality. But right now we don't have solutions that can track end-to-end traceability solutions. Now we are actually, companies are developing the solutions. So that's one area that we're looking at. Traceability of produce, right from seed stage to the last mile stage. So that's another. Third one is traceability quality assaying. So how do you actually grade these, it could be vegetables, it could be fruits, can we use technology? Right now it's all mechanical, that they do it. So these are some of the areas in agriculture that we have. Of course, the other areas you already mentioned within the governance, we are using, it's called pension life cycle, management, wherein we are using selfie, we take a selfie and then using AI algorithms, we match. Earlier, even now, most, if you want to avail a pension, you have to go to a government department, submit your, certificate saying that you are alive. Now you don't have to do that. Take a selfie and, just like a magic wand, you get your pension credited to your. So, and of course, chatbots. The first ones that we experimented is chatbots, to implement within the government websites. So these are some of the areas that we have been working. In the healthcare, there is one interesting project that we are working with Vadvani. We have ASHA workers. I don't know if you are aware of. They work at the village level. They go visit each and every household to collect data about newborn child. So weight and all that. Sometimes what these people do, of course, you can't blame them. Also, they manipulate the data, weight of the baby. Based on the weight of the baby, you suggest nutrition or other, interventions. So Vadvani has developed one smartphone-based AI algorithm. I think they are presented during the AI Raise event, right? Raise event. So we have piloted that. Now we are trying to sort of scale it up. So healthcare, agriculture, governance, of course, these are broad three areas that we have started working on. Yeah.
I I think what inspires me most is how all these areas, overlapping impacting millions of people, right? I mean, when we say
Absolutely.
agriculture contributes 30% of the GDP, but like 50 to 60% of our workforce is in agriculture, is their livelihood. And healthcare, these are not something, Silicon Valley, style, futuristic technology, but these are things that affect each and every common man. I think
Absolutely.
that's one of the beauty of how India as a country, right? Niti Aayog came with the policy AI for all, and now we propose the idea of RACE, right? Responsible AI for social empowerment. So this is the one part I'm like very excited about the work Telangana has done and all the initiatives they had put. And I know you Telangana and yourself has been stressing more on agriculture because of the its importance for our sustainability as well as the number of people involved. How do you see agriculture transforming in the coming years with this current course of technology being applied to it?
Well, Jipu, in fact, I think this is the right time and the right place for any startup or company to enter into agri-tech. Because on one hand, government is really keen to use technology, or to adopt technology to help companies develop solutions. And that's an example that, I mean, we are showing it in action. We release an RFP inviting solutions for this and the ministry. So government is very keen. And the second one is, I'll just share one, I know my experience. I usually share this in every talk that I do, because that really, sort of fascinated me.
Yeah.
We actually implemented one use case, in precision agriculture in one remote village in Nalgonda district, which is around 2 hours drive from Hyderabad. It's using drones to capture, crop images, and also use drones to spray pesticides. I mean, an agronomist will evaluate the crop imagery and suggest suitable intervention. So you need to spray, use this fertilizer, so on. So we experimented using drones to actually spray. So I mean, we could actually saw the increase in yield, reduce in fertilizer utilization. So in fact, it saved a lot of I mean, we actually worked out some numbers. I'm not able to recollect them. So I visited personally to Nalgonda to understand the impact of it. So there were a couple of villagers sitting there. I went there and asked them how is your experience? Did you like it? Initially, they were not sure whether this machine will really work. But there is one educated, I mean, young youth, who sort of convinced these villagers to try it out. So once they tried it out, they really liked it because they don't have to call the laborers, pay them. It's a process that then the laborers should be available because there are other farms also. So, but what he said, I really liked it. It's really useful. But my only request is, whenever I need a drone, it should not come from Hyderabad. It should be housed somewhere near my village so that as and when I need it, it should come down. So the point that I'm trying to make is farmers are willing to adopt technology. So the government is willing, farmers, and now if you look at various newspapers and editorials and all, even the VCs, they are interested to fund agri-tech projects. Earlier, this interest wasn't there. Nobody was investing into agriculture technology. But now agri-tech is the right. It's at the right time, at the right place, I would say, especially in India, because in India we really need technological solutions to transform agriculture. So going forward in the next couple of years, I believe, at least personally, it's going to transform agriculture. And we see at least realizing that vision of doubling farmers' income. Government of India has come out with a report, DFI report it's called. So I'm sure using these technologies we should be able to, and we should be able to make agricultural profession as an attractive one for the youth. Now nobody likes to, yeah, that is the goal, I would say. That technology should do that actually. Wow, we should all, just like people move to IT, the youth should get attracted to agriculture. So when it's doing well, when it's remunerative, people will move, right? So I
That,
believe
that
we'll reach there.
that's a right approach. I mean, yes, but by making agriculture attractive as well as this kind of technology. And I mean, we generally think that farmers are old school; they are not open to new technologies. But it's a lot of things to do with accessibility and
Absolutely.
other infrastructure issues. And I'm glad that there are initiatives from the governments to sort those things out. And since you were speaking about the farmer story and how one person in the village was supporting it, I mean, in general, when everyone was still, how do I say, stuck in their usual course, in their comfort zone, your team and Sir JH and all decided to take a different route, right? Being a sort of a outlier and chose emerging technology, and like had the determination that yes, we can find solution in this technologies. What was your challenge when you got into this, and to create all these projects, all these initiatives? What were the biggest challenges you had to face?
Since as I said in the beginning, it's a new area, right? Nobody has done it. No precedents to even look. In government, usually the way we work, I don't know if most of you are aware, we always look for precedents when you put up a note file, to get approval. So it's even courts do that, So, but there's no precedents here. So how do you? So we had to do a lot of secondary research, and there are certain examples that are implemented elsewhere in the world, but are they applicable to Indian scenario? We are not sure. So important challenges that we faced, I would say, put up broadly is number one, ecosystem. We didn't have the right ecosystem in place. So we had to really work hard to develop that ecosystem. I mean, there are companies, and fortunately for us, we have T-Hub, which is an incubation, and we have a good dynamic startup ecosystem that really helped us. So we had to identify, okay, we want to transform agriculture. We want to identify solutions that help farmers or, the government. But are these technologies available out there? So what is that the government need to do? So one approach that we have taken is to actually give an opportunity to startups to implement pilots in these areas. It is a win-win situation both for the government and for the startups. Startups are getting an opportunity to try out the solution, to develop it, and we provide mentoring also in that process. We give domain expertise, domain knowledge. For example, when we work with on this web project and this AI for AI, we are also roping on in the agriculture university, which has the domain expertise, because an IT development company or a solution startup company, though they have experts, domain experts, but still research agriculture university or an agriculture department, they would know the ground problems, ground realities, right? So that is the value add that we are trying to bring in, to sort of bring together all these groups so that the transfer of knowledge happens. So that's one challenge where we have seen certain solutions are there, but they need a bit of mentoring, or a bit of ground level information. That's one challenge. So we are addressing that gap by having a collaborative project. In fact, for the World Economic Forum, 4 departments from government of Telangana came together to work on that project. Of course, the emerging technologies of IT department, agriculture department, agriculture university, and we also have an organization called Research and Innovation Circle Hyderabad, RICH it's called. There are research scientists who actually, and the objective of RICH is to bring together research, to take research to the market, So, I mean, it's a unique combination of organizations that came together. So multi-stakeholder collaboration is one of the challenge which we're addressing by bringing, different groups together. That is one. Solutions, and right now we don't have matured solutions out there. But as a government mindset, what we have is, I mean, when we procure solutions from the startup, we need to have pluggable solution, procure and just start working. But that's not the case in this sector. Solutions also evolve. So we need to change our mindset or adapt our mindset to that, saying that, okay, this solution will meet right now, but still needs a little more, work. You need to actually put in a lot of work to make it more mature. So as a government, we are also helping those startups to develop the solutions. One is, as I said, availability of technological solutions, availability of domain expertise for this, collaboration happening. Of course, now so some of the companies said that initially they were not able to get funding and market linkages, but now, because of the overall interest in agriculture, that, when I talk AI, mostly I'm talking about agriculture, because that is the first sector that we have taken it up, and we are learning a lot using in that particular sector. So yeah, Jeepu. And another biggest challenge I would say is, while I gave you that example where the farmer was happy, but still there's a lot of lack of awareness, in the farmers. A lot of, you need to actually educate them, inform them, make them aware, those sort of capacity building sessions, workshops, need to happen. And since most of the farmers are not educated, I would say, certain solutions will have to be tailor-made to meet that challenge. It cannot be a text space, where you need to enter data. The solutions I'm talking about, it has to be visually, or audio based, where you give advisories in the local languages. So that's this is applicable not only to agriculture but also healthcare, where people may not be able to use sophisticated, systems where you need to write or enter data in English. Yeah, and one more important challenge, which is for AI, I would say common for all the sectors in AI, is availability of data.
I thought you.
Unless you have data, nothing you can do. No solution can. So when we started working on the agri sector, that's the biggest challenge we face. While we realize that data is available, the required data is available here and there, but it's not in a format that is amenable to for machine learning or for the AI algorithms. So lot of number one, we had to actually identify the sources of data which are spread in different departments. Number two, the startups had to actually had to carry out the pre-processing of data so that will be available for AI algorithm. So a lot of effort has gone into this. So what we are doing that now is to actually establish a data marketplace. Now it's there in our AI framework document too, but now we realize it, by working together with these startups. So we are actually the first very prioritized, activity for us is to create a data stack. For example, if you take again, I come to the agriculture again. So farmer record, farm record is one thing. Soil cards, soil health card is a, so these kind of data, digital data should be available for the startups to come out with innovative solutions. So we are focusing on to address that challenge. Even for the health sector, we need to have health profile of each individuals, right? So, and if you come at look at land records, you need to have digitized land records, land maps, and so we would like to build a Telangana stack as such, digital stack, wherein these data pertaining to different sectors will be available. Yeah, though we do have data sets available of about more than 30 departments, but for AI you need a different kind of data. Yeah.
I'm very familiar with that open data platform Telangana has. I think it is one of the best curated data sets you have.
Yeah.
But then again, the whole data annotation, the other things comes to play. I know you are a very busy person, and I know we are short of time. But I want to ask you one final question, which I feel is very important. As a leader in emerging technology, as someone who has had an amazing journey, being in Silicon Valley in the early days of working on speech recognition to like you said, building irrigation projects to governance to now building helping agriculture with these things. As a woman, women are underrepresented in technology in general, and we all know when that kind of underrepresentation happens, especially in AI, the biases and the
Yeah.
consequences are going to be very serious. And it's in all our interest, and it's all best for our country as well as everyone, that we want more women to come forward in the technology space, in the STEM space, and in the AI, so that we can, we live in a society where as much as we embrace AI, as much our farmers embrace AI, we still have a patriarchal mindset, and some of our social norms goes back centuries, and they are no longer relevant or doesn't make any sense. So, what is your advice for other women students, children, school students, college students, or young professionals who are looking up for a role model, who wants to pursue a career in AI or in emerging technology or in technology in general?
This is very close to my heart. In fact, what you have asked, this particular question. Yeah, I mean, there is underrepresentation, of women in various, not only technology, STEM, as you rightly said. So before I just, go specifically to AI, we actually started. I'm sure you might be aware of this B Hub, Women Entrepreneurial Hub. Just like Technology Hub, T Hub, we have started an organization called B Hub to focus only on women entrepreneurs. So that's one unique, organization that we have set up, which again indicates our states, focus on women. How do we help out women? So women should not be left out of this entrepreneurial journey, because entrepreneurship is one of the focus areas of the state. So having said that, now coming back to the AI, I agree with you. I mean, we need to have focused programs for women to encourage women or children, from the school age, I would say. But one thing I believe, Jibu, if you have the right, if you have that passion, and you really have that, what you call, the interest or the will to do it, I also, it's not an easy, if you ask any woman for that matter, they can, I mean, except for a handful of you, you will have to actually fight certain things, I mean, certain disadvantages are there as a woman, but I don't think they really, prevent you from achieving what you want, So you have to actually first be strong-willed person to overcome all the hurdles. That's as an individual, And one area that women are not so good at, where we are good at in every aspect compared to men, is in networking. That's what I tell women. Please use networking. That's one area which opens out, lot of doors for you, for women entrepreneurs, or even for students, who are seeking out jobs. That's one area that, and as you rightly said, STEM, somehow, because I have been in this, I really don't, I mean, the statistics do say that, but my journey has been in this STEM, so I really don't see that, you need special programs or anything to actually encourage women. As long as you have talent, and of course, for certain, if you can offer certain incentives like scholarships for women, that has helped in the Telangana government. Women students get some scholarship if they are into engineering colleges. So, in fact, I know a couple of students who said because of that scholarship, their parents actually put them in the engineering college. Otherwise, they would have gone for other courses. So, such kind of incentives definitely help, girls or women to take up. At least the parents will put them in such. That's one. And at the workplace, I believe in merit, Jibu. Whether it's a woman or man, you have to actually contribute. But as a woman, as a caretaker of a family, certain flexibility will definitely help in terms of, work hours flexibility or something. Some women, they drop out of, jobs, and they would join after a couple of, because of childbirth or whatever. So an opportunity, so special programs should be designed to take them back on this. And coming specifically to AI, as I said, if you can encourage children from a very young age to take up STEM programs, then obviously you don't have to specifically focus on AI alone. They obviously choose, any programs or courses in technology. Yeah.
That's really amazing. I mean, I really agree with your one of the suggestions of networking. I mean, I recently had a conversation with Anna Roy, and she pointed out a quote by Devjani that men oversell and women undersell. So I think that's the truth here. I mean, I had to accept that. So it was a pleasure talking to you, ma'am. I mean, it was very insightful. I'm very happy to learn about your journey and the journey of Telangana's emerging technology division. Also, I wish you and the team and everyone there all the wishes in the future and all the success, so that you can go and impact many more lives. Not just farmers, maybe healthcare workers, and other areas as well.
Thank you, Jibu. Our, I would say, objective is to use not just AI but emerging technologies for social good. That's our, objective of actually use. So yeah, and thank you for giving me this opportunity, to actually share my experiences with you.